Well, let's explore then, shall we, whether this new president-elect is the shining beacon like the one behind me. I've got two guests to discuss it with me. Pierre Haski, who is the founder of the news website Rue 89, is that right?
Yes.
Yes. Right. My French numbers are still good at this late hour. Former deputy editor of Libération, welcome to the programme. And Gilles is back with us, author of Terror in France, about the terrorist threat here in France. Let's talk about the two speeches we've heard tonight, two very different speeches in fact, one for the supporters and one for the rest of the country, which he made from his headquarters, a fairly sober, serious speech as well.
Yes, the first speech he made was probably the most important because he was talking not only to his supporters who voted for him, but he spoke directly to the voters of Marine Le Pen and those who abstained. And he said something quite important because he said he understood the anger and the fear that was behind their vote, and that he was promising to be an inclusive president and not, as he was described during the campaign, as the candidate of the winners of globalization. And you have this big divide in the country between people who feel they've been left on the side, who've been excluded by the changes of the past 10, 15 years. And so that's a major challenge, and I think it was good that in his first speech he addressed that issue, because you cannot govern a country that's as deeply divided as that and ignoring 1/3 of the country.
Do you think he was also stung by some of the criticism he got 2 weeks ago when he celebrated in fine style at a restaurant here in Paris with his staff? People thought it was a bit premature, it was a bit... It wasn't very presidential, some people said.
Yes, his speech after the first round, I think he was so happy to be the winner of the first round that his speech was really a celebratory speech, which was probably not very appropriate. And I think tonight every image and every word has been very, very calculated to fit the occasion, both his speech to the nation and his speech to supporters in the Louvre. Every image also with this, you know, the glass pyramid, the contrast between modernity and tradition.
Yes, with the choreography.
This was incredibly well calculated to give this image that fits his project, actually.
Yes, the choreography, Gilles, was quite extraordinary. It had been planned down to the last, the last detail. In fact, the French television took a slightly different angle so that the pyramid was literally behind him. He looked like an emperor in front of the pyramid.
Well, of course, and the pyramid, of course, traces back to the pharaoh and also to the Napoleonic trip to Egypt in 1799. But I would like to go back to what Pierre said, that, you know, he has to appear as someone who can heal the wounds and the fracture of French society. And this is what's the backbone of it, that, you know, we have to restructure the education system, which is in shambles. We have to fix the economy, which is not in great shape. We have to deal with this terrorist threat, and something which was perceived as his weakest spot, and which did not convince many of the people who voted for him. So it's a huge, many huge issues, and he managed not to be depicted at the end of the day as Marine Le Pen would have liked to caricature him, i.e. as the banker, the rootless and ruthless banker with no heart, and who doesn't care about outsourcing, is interested in profits. And so now he has gotten a check from the French electorate.
Yeah.
Will he be able to fulfill it? I mean, never ever has a president of the Fifth Republic been facing such a challenge, because usually, you know, this 5-year term was instituted in spite of the 7-year term, so there would be no cohabitation, as we say, i.e. that the president...
But that is very likely, isn't it?
And the majority...
Some say, with the parliamentary elections
Well, usually because, you know, the parliamentary election comes a month after, so the voters would not belie their former vote, but now the right and his opposition want to force him into a cohabitation and try to have a majority which is...
Do you think that's likely?
Well, some of the people who were asked by the pollsters said that they would rather not provide him with a majority, and quite a sizable amount actually, so which is unheard of. So he will have to work a lot to have a sort of convincing discourse in the weeks to come, in 6 weeks.
Yes, the 11th of June, yeah. Of course, they do say, Pierre, if you want to be a success, follow a failure. And there's been no failure in the Fifth Republic, quite like François Hollande. If you look at his approval ratings, 14%. It's abject, isn't it?
Yes, and that was one of Macron's difficulties in the campaign, because he was actually an advisor and then a minister of François Hollande, but he has managed quite skillfully, I must say, to dissociate his image from the legacy of François Hollande. He never attacked it, or he never criticized directly the government of François Hollande, of which he was a part, but he has managed to be his own man and to say, okay, I was in disagreement and quit, and I created my own attempt.
Even though Figaro, a week last Monday, said this is the greatest political heist of the century. Yes. Yeah. They believe this is a political trick, that the Social Democrats within the Socialists said, look, you cannot win this election within the Socialist Party, you need to split, you need to go. And they were right.
I don't think what happened was as cynical as this kind of plot. You know, I think Macron is really his own man, and he has a kind of vision of his own destiny, and I think he tried his best. He has obviously a lot of friends on the socialist side who are now joining him, and some of his first companions in this long march are socialist members of parliament. The mayor of Lyon, Gérard Collomb, or Richard Ferrand, who is the number 2 of his party, are socialist elected members of parliament. So he has a lot of, he has one foot on that camp, but I think he is really his own man, and he has tried to organize his vision with right, left, and the civil society. And I think that's really the most important part, is that in a transformation of the political landscape is adding this key element of the civil society.